There should be quality training at all trucking companies. You heard the phrase, a CDL school does not teach you how to drive a tractor trailer, only teaches you how to pass the test. In most schools, that is true. Because of the standards are so bad, and everyone's finding loopholes in the system.
I'm attorney David Craig, managing partner and one of the founders of Craig, Kelly & Faultless. For over 35 years, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals and families who have been seriously injured or lost loved ones in devastating semi-truck, large truck, and other commercial motor vehicle accidents. When tragedy strikes, life can feel chaotic, overwhelming, and uncertain. Many people don't even know where to begin or what questions to ask. That's why I created After the Crash, a podcast designed to empower you with the knowledge and resources you need to navigate these challenging times. In each episode, I sit down with experts, professionals, victims, and others involved in truck wreck cases to give you insight, guidance, and practical advice. Together, we'll help you understand your rights, protect your family, and move forward. This is After the Crash.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of After the Crash. This is attorney Dave Craig with the law firm of Craig, Kelly & Faultless. And today I'm excited to have a guest that has trucking experience. We talk about trucking and truck wrecks and things, how to avoid truck wrecks and how to get better truckers on the road and all those type of things. And everybody should care about the quality of the truck drivers on the road. Everybody should. We all want good truckers on the road. And so today I'm happy to say that we've got Steve Snyder on as a guest, and he goes by Trucker Steve, right?
That's correct. Trucker Steve, CDL Instructor.
All right, Trucker Steve. So let's start off. Just tell us a little bit of background. Do you have a CDL? Did you have a CDL? Did you drive?
Okay, I started out around 1974. Lived in Maryland, went all the way up to New Jersey to get a chauffeur's license. Well, I got my training in New Jersey, went back to Maryland, took my test, passed on the first time, got my chauffeur's license. At that time, it was chauffeur. I started at UPS. So I wanted, which I tell CDL students, a back door in instead of going over the road, go to box truck. There's nothing wrong with that. Because my plan was to get in with United Parcel Service. So I drove the package cars for a while, and then I went back to driving doubles, tractor trailers. And I stayed there with UPS for close to 30 years. And then I felt like I was a retiring person. Retired a few times and always went back to school buses. I went back to tractor trailers. Went back to a little bit of transit buses, tractor trailers. So I've been all over the place and became an instructor once I retired, and then I came out of retirement and become an instructor back into the trucks. I started YouTube channel, and that was basically my CDL students were encouraging me to say, look, you need to put this on video. So, because the class size was very large. And that way, when they wasn't doing anything, they could still get instruction from me on their phones. So they got me into doing YouTube videos. I did, so the first video YouTube channel was Trucker Steve CDL Instructor. I'm getting close to 30,000 subscribers over the years, but they come and go. Once they get out of school, another group comes in. Then I did two Facebook sites. One, CDL Student Training Tips, which I have about 3 others helping me, and they pretty very well versed in the trucking industry. Now, I have another channel called the Broken CDL Trucking System, which you may have seen, which I started because talking about negative stuff about the trucking industry, I felt was not in the students' best interest. If they looked at that and what I had to say and what other people were saying about the trucking industry, they'll say, why did I spend $5,000 to get a CDL license? So that's why the purpose of it was to start a channel, keep some of that material kind of away from the students, not putting a bad taste in their mouth, saying, like I said, what happened. I do share other people's videos on that channel. Also roll on CDL Truck on Facebook. I share their stuff. It's important to share. Unfortunately, YouTube and all that, other people do not share other people's material. So I guess we'll get into it later on, but there's a big disconnect between all the YouTubers, truckers, and all that. We all complain, but we don't seem to work really close together as a unit because there are some issues. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about some of these issues today.
Yeah. So, Steve, how long were you an instructor for a CDL instructor?
I don't know if I did it 7 or 8 years. I don't know. I
Okay.
did it. I left. And then I got called back from the school. We need you to help. We're starting a new program. We need you to run that. I did it for a little while and went back to, I had a real dandy job near my house, retirement. It was just an 8-hour day, shuttling trailers, 12 miles one way, 12 miles the other way. I was the oldest because when I left there, I was 74 years old when I left. And all the other guys are 62, sitting in their trucks, bad shape, terrible shape. And they used to see me out there doing jumping jacks and exercising and doing all this crazy stuff, you know. And they said, "You're embarrassing us." But I said, "You got to get out of that seat. You got to exercise because you go out and these students you drive. I mean, these drivers who are out there, on the road today. A lot of them are not in good shape, and they are an accident or a health issue from a major accident and maybe taking their lives or someone else's lives. I mean, they can kill somebody. They have to. So I encourage students, I encourage drivers out there, got to get out and move, got to exercise, stay away from the fast food and start eating right. Now it's the time. Change your habits.
Well, it's tough. I mean, the lifestyle of a trucker, is tough. And you go around and you stop at a lot of these places, and they've got the roller dogs and all those kind of things that aren't healthy for you. Now they do have. I think over the years they've gotten better, haven't they? I mean, they've gotten some. You got some vegetables, you got some fruit, you got some things, but it is a tough lifestyle to eat healthy. You're tempted to not eat healthy.
It is a very tough lifestyle, but there's no reason why someone can't get out and walk and exercise and move. That's on them. I see truckers barely can get in and out of their tractors. They can change that if they want to. And sometimes it's their own choice. I see some with legs are so swelled up from sitting. Now got into that too. Sometimes I sat too long. From an injury, I had a blood clot getting off the truck. I was in a box truck. I missed a step and I jammed my leg and had a blood clot. And then later on, I had another leg. But a lot of that's too much sitting, and that's on me. And some people say, "You're never going to drive again." And I did. I said, "Well, I will work harder on taking care of myself." So a trucker can. I see him out there lifting weights and doing exercises. I see him put the mat out. I see it.
Yeah.
And
Well, and we
truckers
see,
can.
unfortunately, I see the other end where truckers are not healthy. They
They're
still
not.
they still pass. They still get, some of these places that pass these truckers, get them their CDL and their medical exams. Unfortunately, and you'll see people, you look at them, you think, okay, this is a sleep apnea person. I mean, this person has to have sleep apnea. The neck size is big, they're overweight, high blood pressure. You have all the signs, and yet I see trucking companies that ignore it. I see them not look at the long form, the medical form. I see them, and the drivers, they may or may not know that you can have sleep apnea and still drive as long as it's just treated. But yet they are afraid they're going to lose their CDL, so they don't get treatment. And the company turns the head, and the medical examiner turns their head the other way.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
sad.
true. That's true. You can go in there. A lot of truckers look for the easiest, someone who's just going to get you through on the medical certificate. Well, this guy's easy. Let's go to him. Now, a lot of trucking companies will send you have to go to their medical person And half of them not really doctors, some of them are practitioners and whatever. And most of them are just going to get you in and out real fast to get the next driver into the seat in the office. It's a in and out too. It's almost like CDL schools. Get the students in, get them out, get the patient in, get them out.
Yeah. Well, and
And then
some people don't
waiting.
realize that you don't even have to be a medical doctor. I mean, you can be a chiropractor, in some
Yes.
states, acupuncturist, you know?
That's what I did. The last one I went to was a chiropractor.
Yeah. And so, and some of them may know, but some of them may not. And so it's kind of risky. You know, I think, you know, to fly an airplane, it's pretty tough. It's tough. And they make sure you're medically, physically qualified to drive that. The federal motor carrier safety regulations require you to be physically fit to drive a truck. You're pulling 40,000 pounds. You got 80, you know, it's just crazy that we don't take more time to make sure people are physically fit, as well as qualified to drive these big rigs.
Right. Now on LinkedIn, there's people who are health wellness coaches.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies, the insurance, if you get insurance through a trucking company, these good insurance company will come and say, we're going to give you, if you follow our advice, our wellness program, we're going to give you this rate. If you don't want to follow our program, you're going to get the higher rate. And all we asking you is to monitor. Are you checking your blood sugar if you're diabetic? Are you doing this and that? If you're following their guidelines, you get the better rate because you seem to be a healthy driver. Not all, I'm assuming not all insurance companies do this or trucking companies do this, but I was with one who did it. Naturally, I had my own health insurance, so I didn't need your insurance, but it was interesting to see it with other drivers I had to pick from. Some of them were complaining. I said, oh my goodness, my insurance rates is going to go up. I got to pay more out of pocket. Why? Because I'm overweight. I have health issues and I'm not doing what it takes to stay healthy, to be well.
Yeah. Well, and there's great trucking companies out there who have that, you know, they have wellness programs, who care about the quality of their health, their driver's health, because they understand that one of the best ways to ensure safety is to have somebody who's physically fit, who's not fatigued, who doesn't have
Right.
sleep apnea, behind the wheel of that, 40-ton vehicle. So there are definitely companies out there that are doing it right, but unfortunately, there are also some out there doing it wrong. Well, let's talk about CDL schools. So you have you have a lot of experience in the CDL schools. With Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, here recently just cracked down, and supposedly in 2025, 2026, there's been this major crackdown on the CDL mills, supposedly CDL mills. So what's your experience? I mean, you think are there CDL mills out there? What makes a difference? What's a good difference between a good CDL school and a bad CDL school?
Okay, first of all, if someone watches my videos, you may have heard me saying the biggest CDL school mill is the FMCSA. They don't enforce what they put on their regulations. It's not enforced. They talk about Sean Duffy. They have talked about the self-certification of CDL schools. Okay, that's to get on the trainer provider registry, become a CDL school. All you have to do is self-certify. I will do everything that you want me to do. I'll follow all the rules, and they don't. A good CDL schools out there, the ones who state licensing accredited, they could be a bad CDL school. Doesn't make any difference. A good CDL school is one who usually will follow the entry-level driver training, teach the students how to back up, and proficient. Now let's talk about another self-certification. That's the one they talk about. The one they're not talking about, the one I'm complaining about, is when CDL schools set students up for their state test. It's the FMCSA certification form. The school They have maybe a 3-week course. Some schools only have a 5-day course. Some have 8 or 10-day course. Most of them are around 4 or 5 weeks. So at the end of the class, they set all the students up for their test. Some of them cannot even back up. They go on the FMCSA website, and all it is asking for simple information. I don't know if you can see that. Simple information. They don't ask you, did you teach them how to alley dock? Did you teach them how to do this skill or dropping hooks? They don't ask you nothing. They don't ask you, is this student ready, proficient in all skills so he can take his test? They don't ask. It's a self-certification. That's no one's talking about. And this, so you click on, he's ready to take a test. It goes to the state. The state sees nothing. All they see is, FMCSA, this student's ready to be tested. They assume that the school followed all the instructions. I'm also a third-party tester, so I test in the state of Maryland. I don't do it any longer. I'm pretty much retired. I'm a full-time caretaker now for my wife. Otherwise, I'll probably still be driving till I'm 80. But the state gets this form. And here's the disconnect. The state knows, they can see as you test, or when I test a student, I said, this person can't even back up. This person has no business. They have to take them on the road, barely can shift. And sometimes I have to fail the students because I said, no, you can't even shift. Or they can't back up. They're running over cones. The new testing, so the new testing is called the modernization testing. About 95% of the states in the United States is under the modernization testing. It was so confusing because the FMCSA one, I believe the entry-level driving training came in around 2022. They started the process around 2016. So when the entry-level driver training came in, 6 months later, here comes the modernization program. And I would be saying FMCSA just clearly watered down the training system and the testing system for CDL students. The modernization, when you test it, you can run over a cone and not fail. You can run out of boundaries. The whistle blow, you get back in, and then you try to complete your test. I felt it was a way to get students in and out of school because mainly someone was probably pushing the driver shortage. We have an issue. The entry-level driver training, that program alone was restrictive. It was a lot of red tape. Students wasn't getting in and out of school fast enough. Can we make the testing a little bit easier? And unfortunately, because the FMCSA, all they had to do is clarify when this modernization program came in, it's explained and put a memo out. All schools must teach alley docking. All schools must teach fully the entry-level driving training program, and a lot are not, because I believe there was about, on an audit, 44% of schools was not following the curriculum. So I hear, like you said, Sean Duffy talking, he says they're not following the curriculum. I said, why did you tell everybody what the curriculum is? Why did you explain to everybody that every school must follow the mandated entry-level driving training program? Make it easier. Why not put the alley docking back on the test? And then they'll have to do it. Then they'll have to start training these students. So these students are going on the road unprepared. We can talk about some more loopholes, whatever. But there's a lot more to it because I can talk for an hour about watering down of the CDL training system. It is, to me, it is a crime. It's not good. And
we want
safe. Fighting for a long time.
Well, we want safe drivers on the roadway. I mean, that's one thing everybody should agree on. I mean, and also by having the better the quality of the driver is, then theoretically the more we pay them. I mean, it all starts with the quality of the drivers, and not letting these unqualified drivers who are willing to work for less money into our system. I've heard cases where they were trained on automatic tractors. And so they're trained on automatic tractors and they get their CDL And then they go work for somebody who doesn't have, that has manual transmission, and they don't know how to shift gears.
Well, they'll have to go back to school and get that off their license. If they go in automatic, they have that restriction, so they cannot drive a manual. They cannot shift, they cannot drive it. So, which I don't really mind too much because the industry is mostly automatic anyway. So any CDL student might listen to this clip. You need to get that manual on your license. Why? Because you need every opportunity to get a job out there. If you say, well, I'll just get automatic because most companies have it, you're not helping yourself. So you can be in a farm area. They would have manual tractors. You can work for a small trucking company, delivering water, whatever. Most likely, they will have a manual tractor. So don't cut yourself short. Maybe in 15, 20 years, everything will be automatic, but not right now.
Yeah.
You're cutting yourself short if you do not get that manual.
Well, having been in the industry as long as you have and having taught other truckers how to drive, I mean, what do you think? I mean, what should we want in a CDL school to make sure that we're getting safe drivers?
CDL schools, we're looking for a ratio between instructors and students. If it's one instructor for 10 students, that's bad. And we have that. That might be I don't care if it's state license, accredited, or whatever. If that's the case, that we can call CDL mill. They're just putting students in. We don't want that. We want at least one instructor, 4 students. 4 students, 1 to 4. It's workable. CDL schools should be teaching students how to back up. If they're not doing it, that's not good. So where I work at a Random House, you might have heard of that. I think it's in Chicago. I think his home base might be. I'm not too sure. But I see new drivers come in at the warehouse where I've been working, can't even back in. Then the instructor or the driver trainer, he gets in, he cannot back in. And there's another problem. The trucking companies putting inexperienced driver trainers out there. That should be illegal. That's not right. And you saw the major accident with Warner several years ago when a driver crossed the lane. Yes, it might not have been a pickup truck crossed the lane, hit Warner head on, but I believe the trainer was sleeping in a bunk. It was icy out there. The new driver didn't do much wrong. He was basically not doing anything wrong, but the trainer, he should have been in the driver's seat or in the passenger seat somewhere and monitoring the situation. It was a dangerous situation. I want to see standardized equipment at CDL schools. I go down there and I see little small pups. If you know that a pup is a 28-foot trailer in the day cab, trying to just make it easier to pass the modernization testing. Students need to be trained in the equipment that they're going to go out in. If they have the wrong equipment and then they go to a company and the company doesn't train them properly, when they make turns, they can hit another car, another vehicle, because why? They're in the wrong type of equipment. They need to train in the equipment that they will most likely be driving with a trucking company. So most CDL students are going to go to a mega company or going to go over the road. They need to be in sleepers or at least have a sleeper at the school. They don't have to test in a sleeper, but you should have the equipment, the standard equipment that they're going to be in, and not go to a trucking company and be in shock. Oh my goodness, I'm not used to this. It's this big tractor and this 53-foot trailer. No, that's no good. That's no good. So I want standardized equipment. I want the federal government to change how students are being tested, little adjustments, wording. And Basically, I want to see CDL instructors get paid properly. When they don't, you look at them and they get paid poorly, they don't care. They don't care. They're gonna tell students to train students, and this had to be looked into. I think the whole system is broken. That's why I call it the broken CDL trucking system. I refer to the CDL school as the broken CDL school system.
Yeah.
It is worse than what it was even when I started, or maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Prior, as soon as the entry level driver training came out, I thought that was a very well done program. Except the biggest problem is no minimum number of hours training on a public road. There's why I jump in at the FMCSA. No minimum hours of training on the range. A good CDL school would give them proper road time. But this is an excuse for CDL schools to cut corners. Get them in, get them out fast as possible. And yes, I would keep on blaming the FMCSA. I like Derek Barr. I like Sean Duffy. I think they're doing a good job. But in my opinion, I don't think they really understand what's really going on. They're not talking to the proper people. You bring a Steve Gold in, who has about over 100 CDL schools throughout the country. And some of his schools are not good. Most of them are good, but not all of them. I worked for 160 Driving Academy for a short period of time, but then I went back for lesser pay back to the school that I was working for. It wasn't because the school was not particularly good. And it was using equipment that should not be on the road. But that's a 160 Driving Academy. And 160 Driving, I give them credit because when you file a complaint and I say, yeah, this that needs to be fixed, they were pretty good at fixing issues or trying to fix it. But it was one in Chicago, I believe it was stationed out of Chicago. But they covered the whole United States with all these schools. But overall, I really liked their program. I liked their outline, all that stuff. A good CDL school has to have a good curriculum and a good program. It has to be well run.
One of the other kind of controversial things now we're seeing a lot of is a lot of talk about the non-domiciled drivers. Indiana just cracked down. I think they just pulled. In March, they sent out letters revoking CDLs for almost 2,000 non-domiciled drivers. Indiana, I mean, obviously, every state has their own rules and regulations on getting a CDL. You see that a lot of other states in the country now are cracking down on that. Not all of them, but certainly a lot of the states are cracking down. And so you're seeing all of a sudden, well, in Indiana alone, almost 2,000 drivers are off the market. They're not able to drive. Any opinions you have on non-domiciled drivers? Are we moving in the right direction? Are we focus on the wrong things? What do you think?
I think they make it. Here's where the mistake is. If you cannot speak English, you don't belong on the road. If you come to the United States and you cross the border illegally, you don't belong on the road. No one should hire you. Where I see it, you've got the DACA drivers, CDL drivers, came here. Some of them came here at 2 years old, 5 years old. They got a job. One was an owner, operator, owned a few trucks. And his license is on the line. He's still driving, but he probably can't renew it because he's not an American citizen. At the truck show, he talked to Sean Duffy. And he says, I'm one of the DACA drivers, CDL drivers. I can speak perfect English. Sean Duffy says, you shouldn't have no trouble. This is not about you. You can speak good English. You okay? He said, you don't understand. And what he was basically saying, he made a video. He said, Sean Duffy didn't understand. He thought I was okay. There's me no issues. But whoever these states, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon to get rid of all the non-domicile. A lot of these non-domiciles are legal, have visas, are legal to drive. Some of them, the DACA in particular, fell into the blanket. That's wrong. There's some who came in, let's say during the war, the war in the Middle East, whatever, they came in and they cannot go back to their home country. And they gave them visas to work. They can speak perfect English. They lived here for a while now. They very good drivers, but they foreign, non-domicile. Put them out. What's going to happen, which I believe is going to happen, I think they have one stay and they're going to try to get another stay into court in Washington. Which I think is going to happen, especially after that Sean Duffy interview, which he told the DACA driver, oh, you should be okay. He's the one who filed the lawsuit. George, whatever, he filed the lawsuit. And he's going to probably take that video. He says, look, here's Sean Duffy says, I'm okay to drive. I'm not a part of this, and which he is. And the court's going to look at it. If you hurt innocent people who don't fall into the category of illegal citizens or people who can't speak English, I believe, in my opinion, that the court's going to throw this out and you have to start all over. You just can't just make everyone happy and take everyone's license. And those who are fall in the blanket, when innocent people get hurt, I think the court's going to step in and say, hey, you just can't, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
Just follow the rules at FMCSA. That's all. Follow it.
Maybe you can explain to the audience, because not everybody understands why is English proficiency important? Why, because you made a comment that if you can't speak English or read English, which is what the rules require, right? That you can't drive. But some people don't understand that, and they're trying to figure out, well, why do they need to be able to read or to speak English? They can recognize the signs, the shape of the signs. If it's red and it's got, it's a stop sign, I don't have to read it. So to explain to us why, in your opinion, why is it important that they speak and read English?
They have to understand if they get stopped by a police officer, they got to be able to communicate. They have to be able to communicate with law enforcement, with a citizen. If they should have an accident, all of a sudden they can't communicate with someone after the crash. They cannot communicate with that person or the police officer. That's a problem. Now, where I work, most of the truckers who came in were from Amazon, and a lot of them could not speak pretty good. I mean, we can fight and try to get through it with the language. And a lot of times I would ask them, I said, just bring your phone out. Let's use the translator on the phone and we'll get through it. So, I mean, if they understand, look, if someone is legal to drive and can understand and read signs and all that stuff, I might be okay with that. But if they absolutely cannot understand what I'm saying, cannot understand what you're saying, or the police officer, we got an issue. Got to be able to communicate.
I've also had guys that are mechanics who tell me that it's a challenge when they're trying to explain maintenance issues. They're having problems with the truck and they don't understand what they're telling them. That can also be an issue.
Yeah. Oh, the mechanic fought the driver when we come, let's say, a leak somewhere, and let's say it was a brake leak, and he thought the person was saying something else because he couldn't understand him. He couldn't have a communication, and all of a sudden he goes and fixes something else and didn't see the leak that the driver might have been talking about because he couldn't communicate with the mechanic. I had one student I believe from China. He can talk pretty good English, but he couldn't understand my verbal instructions to him. I'll say, please, when it's safe to do so, move one lane to the right. This is during training. Then do nothing. When it's safe to do so, I want you to move one lane to the right. Then do nothing. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, he doesn't understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
And then he puts out his phone, translated. He's driving and throws his phone out at me. I said, you and I are going to have English lessons after the class. I said, he was a good driver, very good driver. But I said, we would work on it and we would make sure you know road signs, make sure you understand English, and what the examiner is telling you to do. He passed on his first try. I mean, but he was very, very intelligent, very smart.
Well,
Yeah.
so maybe you can explain something to me. This is something I never understood. So a lot of truck drivers get paid by the load, and or the mile, and they're not paid by the hour. Most people in the United States, the Fair Labor Standards Act applies, and you have to work 40 hours, and anything over 40 hours, you got to pay somebody overtime on. And in the trucking, they don't have to do that.
No.
And it's not mandatory. It's not obvious. I've always wondered, would it be safer if we were paying truckers by the hour and paying them overtime, versus by the mile, by the load? What's your thoughts?
Okay. So if you're a local driver, you're going to get paid by the hour.
Right.
If you have a little bit of long distance and local, usually the company will pay you whatever pays the highest. So there were times I worked for a company, mostly it was by the hour, but if I had to go a longer distance in my drive time for the day, for a particular day, yeah, paid by the miles, paid more. There might have been a stop that also paid me for unloading or loading, etc. Over the road drivers are mostly paid by the mile. You're not going to get paid by an hour. And yeah, some drivers will milk the clock, and it gets them more more motivated to move on when you're paid by the miles. Some companies will short the drivers by paying by as the way the crow flies. They might do, let's say, we'll just use the example, do 100 miles, but they'll pay them 50 miles. Drivers, one reason why drivers quit is because of pay. New drivers, they come out of CDL schools, they usually only last about 1 year, and then they quit. Usually it's because of pay. The local drivers who drive local, insurance companies would not let companies hire anyone usually with no less than 2 years experience, maybe one, but usually 2 years experience. They get paid very well. Now, I was always a union driver for most of the time I drove with UPS. It was always union. There's not too many union companies out there. A lot of companies broke the union or got them out. They found ways to disband the unions, get them out. That created lower pay too. A lot of drivers don't want to have nothing with the unions. There's a lot of dishonest union workers or executives within the union. There's been a lot of fraud. But unions, if you have several union trucking companies, other companies will have to pay more because they're afraid if they don't treat their drivers right, that company may unionize. So it does serve a purpose to having a union in there. Now, I was with UPS, so we had a very good local. UPS, every state had their own local. I was very fortunate. I had a fantastic local union who looked after the drivers' well-being. We got paid well, but our local president was making sure that we could retire at an early age. So in Baltimore, we had 50 and out. No longer, that went up, the age went up, but we had 50 and out, full benefits for our wives and ourselves. I still get, I'll be 75 in just weeks. My wife will get full benefits if anything happens to me. I still get my full prescription plans, et cetera, from the union. Everything else is Medicare, Social Security, and all that stuff. So the union is still active in our home. So we still active with the union. So the miles, paid by the miles will always be there. It wouldn't work for over the road. And on local driving, usually a good company will pay you whatever pays the highest.
Okay.
And
Or,
some companies will just take advantage of you.
so let
But
me ask. So let me ask you. Let me switch into how about hours of service? So now we have electronic logs. When you first started, you had paper logs.
right,
Now you got to deal with. Now the drivers have to deal with electronic logs. Tell me what your thoughts are about the. And I'm always amazed. I get truckers who are very upset about electronic. They don't like them. And I think to myself, well, wait a minute, the rules are the rules. The hours of service haven't changed. And so it's just whether or not you can fudge that piece of paper versus that computer. And so it really is the same. It's just now you can't get away with fudging the piece of paper.
right. So when I started, naturally, everything was paper logs. Did I fudge it here and there? Well, at times, but I had to be careful because you, David, if I would have an accident after I crossed into New York or New York City from New Jersey into New York, if I had an accident, I'm sure you're going to go back and look at the toll booth.
Mhm.
We want to get a picture and see if the camera, when I went through, matches up to where I am now. So you also
Absolutely.
might want to get my cell phone. Now we got cell phones. You might
Yeah.
want to get my cell phone records.
Your
So
fuel records. Back in the old days,
anything.
you used to track your fuel record, your fuel records and all that.
Does it all add up?
Mhm.
Now, do I like so a lot of the old truckers, especially over the road truckers, oh man, they didn't want to have nothing to do with electronic logs. But now, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was okay because it benefited me. It benefited me because the company couldn't force me to work more hours than what I should because my computer was telling me you out of time, you're running out of hours. Look for a place to get off the road. These electronic devices, a lot of them got pulled off the market or pulled off by the FMCSA for whatever reason. I don't know what they were, why, whatever. I guess everyone can just fraud everywhere. But do I like electronic logging? Yeah, I like it because it keeps me. I was pretty well when it came to, my finances and all that stuff. I didn't want to work any more hours than I had to work. And also, some of these computers will also tell the company how you are, operating the vehicle, hard stopping, fast starts, you're idling too long. So it's also, it showed more than just your daily activity. No, I'm all in favor of electronic logging. I understand why the other drivers didn't want it because like I said, I kind of knew where to fudge it, but I knew where not to fudge it. But and I had supervisors telling me, "How come you're not in New Jersey? All the other drivers are in New Jersey." I see, but even though I had paper logs, I said, "No, I'm following. I usually would mostly follow the rules." I said, "No, I'm not going to cheat. How can I get through Connecticut, get through New York, and be down there?" I said, those guys, I couldn't say it. But I said, I'll have to fudge logs real big time. I'm not going to
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
going to do it.
we used to see it. It was a lot harder back in the old days. You had to do a lot more legwork as a lawyer to track all that stuff down. But you know what? Here's something I've seen, which I never saw before. I'm seeing more of is what they call ghost drivers. And ghost driver is somebody. So you're running let's say, and I just had one where somebody's picking up a load in that, Indiana, and they're running it to California. And so, they obviously can only drive so many hours and they have to be off. Well, they have a co-driver. And so the co-driver, and they have a sleeper berth. And so while one driver's driving, the other one's sleeping, and then they switch off and then they keep going. Turns out there isn't two drivers. They're just saying they have two drivers. And so that way it's cheaper. They're making more money and it doesn't, nobody knows the difference really. I mean, especially these ones that are driving for themselves. No one notices the difference unless there's a wreck. And then there's
Yeah.
an accident and there's a wreck and there's only one driver in that truck. And it's amazing. They always get out at the last truck stop. They got sick or something happened to them and they got out. Have you ever seen that or heard of the ghost drivers?
I might have heard it. I just don't recall. But yeah, I mean, people unfortunately look for loopholes. They look for ways to beat the system. Even with electronic logs, look for ways to break the computer. Oh, I just broke it. I got to go to paper logs.
Yep.
They find ways to do it.
Yeah.
And they should be in jail.
Yeah.
They have an accident and they kill someone, they should be in jail. Years ago, when I first started driving, you never heard anything on the TV about if you got hit by a big truck, call us.
Mm.
Nowadays, if you got hit by a big truck, call us because we are the lawyers who can fight for your rights. We know entry-level driver training laws. We know the little loopholes, and we know how to get you damages because of poorly trained drivers, CDL schools who didn't do their jobs, etc. So now you see it on TV all the time.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that's you in the business now. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a difference between just like there are good lawyers and bad lawyers, there's good truckers and there's bad truckers. There's lawyers who really know the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, know the CDL manuals, know the ins and outs of the industry. They know the equipment. They have the resources and the knowledge and the experience. And then there's some out there who just say they know how to do trucking and they don't. And that's the same way with truck drivers. You got some out there who really know how to do it, who care about what they're doing. They care about safety. They're trying to make a living and they want to get home to their families just like everybody else. And then you got some who just don't care, who are just out there to make the money, and that's true with both, whether you're a trucker or whether you're a lawyer. Let me ask you about drivers facing cameras. So back when you started, they didn't have drivers facing cameras. Now they got cameras facing outwards and they got facing drivers and they can tell whether you're kind of nodding. Some of the software now can tell whether you're distracted, whether you're driving, whether they like it. I've talked to some truckers and they tell me, well, they don't like it. I had one guy tell me that he pisses in a bottle and he goes, the camera's on me. I go, well, why in the world are you doing driving while you're taking a leak anyway? Can't
Right.
you pull off to do that? But anyway, what's your thoughts about the driver facing cameras and the technology that we have in these new tractors?
So here's my opinion on that. Cameras facing outward, I like it. I tell all my CDL students, when you're starting out on the road, I want you to get a camera. Now, camera that faces out. But the truck has one. No, I said, you get one too. If the truck doesn't have one, I want you to have one. Because if you have an accident, that camera may save your job. If it's your fault, you take the camera, put it in your bag, and then say, I didn't do anything wrong. The inward facing cameras are getting better and better. If you are a new, inexperienced driver, most likely you will have a camera facing you. The only issue would be, in my opinion, is companies who misuse the camera. Someone who's looking at you, if the camera's situated like that, if they can look at you and see that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and then accidentally touch your phone by accident. Oh, God, I got him. I'm going to fire that person. That's not right. You use the camera to control behavior out of a driver. The cameras sometimes now, the good cameras will do it. Your eye is moving left and you're losing focus. And it picks it up and then it'll come on. Usually the camera is not operating unless the camera sees you touch a cell phone, because now it's AI generated, good cameras. So the old cameras were abusive, but the new cameras nowadays that they're using, if you're wandering or dozing, the camera say, wake up, it'll talk to you. Every time I would go through into my warehouse. You just went through a stop sign. And I'll yell back at the camera and say, it's not a stop sign. You're looking at the triangle and it's facing another way. So, and I had, it felt like I said, my goodness, I'm having a conversation with the camera. But yeah, if you are an inexperienced driver, companies will put the camera in there to save your rear end.
Mhm.
It can also save the driver because you had a camera. You might be going after someone after the crash, and the camera, you look at the camera yourself, you say, oh my goodness, he's right. The driver didn't do nothing wrong. The
Mhm.
camera proved the forward and facing camera proved the driver was not in the wrong. If you're doing your job, you should have no issue. Nowadays, even if they have warning signs on the left and right of the trailer. So if you go over the line, weave over the line, the bing, 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 little signs come up. Stay in your lane. So lane monitoring, they have a lot of technology nowadays. It might get frustrating at times, but nuclear verdicts, I don't see where the trucking companies have any choice. And And I got used to it. It didn't take me too long to get used to inward facing camera. Like you said, if you don't do anything wrong. Now, some companies, I believe, I'm trying to think, Swift, when you off duty, you can put a piece of tape over the lens if you concerned. The camera should not be operating unless it sees something because it's AI generated. It should not only come on when it sees something wrong. So if you feel uncomfortable, you stop and you can put the tape and just don't forget to take the tape off when you're on the road, you're driving. It's
Well,
here. It's
yeah,
here.
technology has changed the game. I mean, and you and I would disagree on what nuclear verdicts are, but I would look at fair compensation for horrific
Right.
cases. And
Right.
these companies, usually the ones that are the large verdicts, are really bad facts situations that
Yeah.
cause these wrecks. But we have, they have crash avoidance software now. They've got speed limiters they can put on a truck. I mean, they've got a variety of things. We know that the faster you're going, the more likely the wreck is catastrophic. This crash avoidance. I know truckers a lot of times don't like it. So people who drive cars don't like it. They've got more cars now that have it. But the reality is that a lot of the wrecks, a lot of the folks that I represent, the victims, all too often are in construction zones or on highways or interstates where traffic is backed up for whatever reason, and then the trucker just is going down. They're fatigued. They got their truck on cruise, and they don't have crash avoidance software, speed limiters, and they just plow into the back end of the stopped or slow traffic. And I see
Yeah.
that same case over and over, year after year after year. And now you're starting to see some where you've got this crash avoidance software, where the camera's facing the driver, where if they start to doze off, it alerts them. But
Right.
I think, as technology in my car has, my seat rumbles or vibrates if I go over the yellow line. I got yellow lights in my blind spots, and so I know if there's somebody sitting next to me, which again, truck drivers they have somebody on the right side is always harder to see than on the left side. Why not have something that lights up, something that warns drivers? I don't understand. I guess, technology is going to continue to advance and we might as well all join it.
Yeah. Especially got the driverless tractor trailers going down the road. Yeah.
Yep.
Technology's here. It's here. I don't, when it comes to speed limiters, I don't mind them. But they also, if they set too low, they can also create an accident. You hear you're passing, you're within the speed limit, and someone has the limiter set, and you dead in the water passing the truck because the hill went a little upgrade a little bit, and you can't overtake him. Now you're in a jam. You got to get back to the right side if possible. But so most of the companies that I work for who had it too low realized that, this is a safety issue. Yes, we don't want the truck going too fast, but we also want to give the driver a little space above a normal speed limit. And so if he's going in a spot the highest speed that on the roadway that he might be going on might be 65, we would let it go to 70 or something like that to give him that extra 5 miles or something, to get around out of the bad situation. So it has to be used wisely. So, and also it saves fuel and whatever. So, when we get in gas prices where they are now, a lot of truckers are starting to slow down anyway and start, to try to conserve fuel, especially the owner operators, say, hey, we better slow it down a little bit. That's what happened on the last time we had high fuel costs. Everyone was slowing it down.
Well, so you've been in this business for decades. You've seen a lot of changes. I mean, anything else that you want to chat about that you think is either good about what we're doing now, or bad? Anything else you want to talk about that we haven't chatted about?
I'm a safety person, and I know you had something on there about underride crashes and all that, so I just touch on that. So, these are the vehicles. So do I believe there should be underride protection? Yes. There should be. And now, naturally, when I worked for UPS, all the trucks had, storage. No longer, most of them are gone because, once again, it's about saving money. So I drove for, I guess, 52 years, 53, whatever, quite a while. I have never had an accident on the road. Never. I mean, I'm sorry, let me go and word that. I'm sorry. I never had a chargeable accident on the road. I had one accident. I was only involved in one accident. Luckily, a police officer, off-duty police officer, was also about 2 lanes back from me. I didn't know that. All I know is I'm driving down up in Connecticut. I was in Connecticut at the time. And all I felt it was a big shaking. And I'm crest the hill. I'm going back down the mountain. And I'm fighting. I thought I got rear-ended. That's what I thought happened. I thought I got rear-ended. And I'm trying to avoid going into the woods. I got it under control. Pulled on the side of the road. Look in my mirror up the hill. I said, what happened? And I looked way on top of the mountain. Wasn't that far, but I mean, it was up there. And I saw, what a mess. That was a mess. I looked at my truck. When I got out of the truck, traffic was coming down, so I had to be careful. I didn't see nothing on the truck, the trailer, nothing. Didn't see anything. I get up on top, and this young lady was crying. And everyone was around her, a lot of people around. And he said, who are you? I said, oh, I'm the truck driver. He's down the bottom of the hill. I think she hit my trailer or hit me in the rear or something. And she says, I'm sorry. And I look at her car. She went under the trailer. She went under, was halfway, and then was able to spin back out. Turn the wheel back to the left, went out, flipped a couple times, hit the guardrail, tore the vehicle up. If she had a passenger in that car, she was just a driver. If a passenger was in that car, that person would have been dead instantly, would have been dead because there was nothing there. That was gone. So if that trailer had protection, that person, if let's say a person was in there, that person would have been alive. So I know there's a CDL Shorty that's on all kinds of social media. You probably heard of him. You probably seen him. And he is the always talking about underride crashes, how the companies need to get protection. Now, I know if you have a fuel truck or one of those top loaders that hold tankers or whatever they hold, those might not be suited for underride protection. But these trailers that when I put up the green trailer, there's no excuse. Something has to be done. And you just saw the run recently, I think in Florida, when the driver made a U-turn. That person maybe had still be alive today if there was protection. there should be no trailers being built today without underride protection to keep cars from going under these trailers.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
Yeah, that's something we agree on. I mean, I can
Yeah.
remember back. I mean, my very first underride guard case on the back of a trailer. I mean, so there used to not even be, until Jane Mansfield, got
Right. ICC
decapitated.
bar in the back.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so, that they put that, and now we need to tighten those restrictions. But yeah, I mean, there's no question they make a difference. They can stop you from going underneath the vehicle and being decapitated or, severely injured or killed.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to chat about, Trucker Steve?
No, my goal is I was just on YouTube and Facebook. I'm trying to connect the dots to get the word out to the FMCSA about the standards of training in CDL schools. And not only that, the training when a student gets out and goes to a trucking company. You heard the phrase, a CDL school does not teach you how to drive a tractor trailer. Only teaches you how to pass the test. And that in most schools, that is true. So no matter what you do about the non-domiciles and all that stuff, because of the standards are so bad, and everyone's finding loopholes into the system. And I talked about the two types of self-certification. The one that we trying to get CDL providers who just get on and promise to do everything. But the FMCSA has a self-certification, how students get through the system, get their test. How states are ignoring. If they see it, they see a student being tested 2 or 3 times, even if it's a third-party testing school. They see that the student failed 1, 2, 3, 4 times. They see it. It's a red flag. Nothing's being done. It's all keep quiet, don't do nothing. Using the driver shortage as a reasoning. Well, we got to get them out. But when they go to a trucking company, I'm saying there should be quality training at all trucking companies. Now, you go to Schneider and some of the mega companies, they have programs which is called, or Schneider, we'll go with them, training the inexperienced tractor trailer driver out of school. That's a program. So you can use their program. FMCSA can say, hey, guess what? We're going to go to the mega companies, have good programs to train the inexperienced driver. We want this across the board for every trucking company. That student, when he comes out of school, yes, he got his license. Maybe they need another step. You complete 1 year or whatever. Hopefully they don't cut his pay down, but you complete 1 year and doing this, and this, and then you'll get a full CDL license. Maybe something like that needs to be done. But there's too many trucking companies out there who are not properly training the new inexperienced drivers. They get them in and they just throw them in the truck in days. They have a CDL driver trainer who doesn't know how to train because the experienced drivers, they don't want to have nothing to do with that new driver. They don't want to be in that truck because they know the bad standards at CDL schools. Why do I want to get in driving down the road with an inexperienced driver? Or can I sleep in the back knowing that this student doesn't even belong on the road? So they put someone who wants extra money. They say, well, you might only have 2 years, so we'll let you be a driver trainer. He'll do it because he's going to make extra money. He wasn't making enough money because he's probably with the company for less than a year or 2 years. So this is a way to make extra money, but the person might not be qualified. So you have a major accident. And then you're going to be looking at him and says, wait a minute. The driver trainer, was he qualified to teach? And what was he doing? Maybe he was sleeping in the back in a situation where he should not have been sleeping. So
Absolutely. Yep.
it goes on and on. And the system needs to be fixed. And I'm trying to connect the dots, and hopefully someone from Landline Magazine, Freightway Magazine, trucker magazine, whatever, or someone who has connections who speaks to Sean Duffy in the Derek Bar, maybe they're going to say, and they don't have to use my videos or anything. And they say, hey, this is something he's bringing up some things that we are not talking about. And it needs to be talked about. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak. I was a little surprised. I figured that maybe a trucking magazine might call me. I don't go around there and plead with anyone to do a podcast. I think at my age, sometimes I worry that I'll just forget about everything. So I don't know how I did, but I'm trying to get the word out.
You did great, Steve. And I respect, I like to talk to people who have experience. I like to talk to people whose opinions are not always the same as mine. I think respectful disagreement is fine. I was the way I was raised. You don't have to, people think that just because I sued negligent truck drivers that I don't like truckers. And that's absolutely not true.
No.
I represent a lot of great truck drivers who tell me that it's scary on the road today versus how it was 20, 30 years ago. And so I represent, I don't care if someone causes a wreck and they can't drive, then they should be, right. I should hold them accountable. On the other hand, if somebody does drive well and drives good, and then they're hit by somebody else that can't drive, then I'll represent them. But I appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge.
Yeah.
How do people find? Well, go ahead, Steve.
Let me say one more thing.
Sure.
Years ago, I don't want to date myself, but years ago, when accidents happen with truckers and cars, most of the time, it turned out the fault was with the four-wheeler. Not today. It's all changed.
Yep.
It has changed. Even this non-dom, we want to get cleaned up. No, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Well, I think they flooded the market with, unfortunately, I think there wasn't a driver shortage. This is my personal opinion. They flooded the market because they wanted lower paid truck drivers to drive trucks. And so they started flooding the market with people who were not as qualified. Some people just got out of it because then all of a sudden it drove down the amount of money you had to pay people. You got brokerage companies coming in, taking their cuts. I mean, so we could have a whole different episode on.
There will always be the term a driver shortage.
Mm-hmm.
CDL schools have to use that term. They will always use that term. How can they not?
That's how they fill their seats.
The mega carriers will always use that term. Also, because they get money from the government to train, they might have their own CDL schools, whatever, and also to get benefits from that term. So there will always be that term, a driver shortage, whoever it benefits the most. The average trucker out there will say there is not a driver shortage. It's just a retention issue because of low pay, unfair treatment, and just treating you like a number instead of like a person. So yeah, the term will always be there. Yeah. So how can you get a hold of me?
How do people find you, Steve?
Okay, on YouTube, Trucker Steve, CDL Instructor on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn now. Just started on there so I can try to connect with David and other people. Especially when I do the connection, who I click on, I try to connect with people from the FMCSA and whoever does talk shows or trucking shows and podcasts, etc. So those are the ones I'm trying to connect with. I have the Broken CDL trucking system. Not that I get a lot of views on that channel. I just wanted to separate it from my CDL students, not to discourage them, but I want people in government, I want people throughout in magazines or whatever, just look at it. Some of the stuff I have on there, I might have to make corrections because the lack of clarity from the FMCSA about how students should be trained. I thought it was like two separate programs. If you adopted the modernization program, you no longer had to do alley dock and things like that. That looks like I was wrong on, so I might have to do some corrections there. But I always, in Maryland, We never had alley dock. Even when the entry level driver training, they dropped that. But when I was an instructor, I always taught my students all kinds of backing skills. I would take them to my place of work and have them back into docks. So I did my job.
Yep.
So that's what that channel is. So I need people to look at it, and all I want someone, maybe not myself, but people in Landline Magazine or somebody to look at it and say, wait a minute, he's talking about another self-certification issue that we haven't been talking about, and why there's loopholes created to get students to pass the test easier, things like that. So that's what that channel is for. On Facebook, once again, CDL student training tips. CDL student training tips. You got to join that. No money. I never take a dime from anybody. Don't take, say, give me likes or pay. I don't need the money, and I don't want a dime. And the people who help me on that channel, all we want to do is just give you advice. If you have an issue or have a problem, we there. That's what that channel for, is to talk to you. Roll on CDL Trucker, another Facebook site that I have. Roll on CDL Truckers. I do share some of my videos from the broken CDL trucking system. And I also share a lot of videos from other YouTubers and Facebook, whoever. If I see something that I think is valuable, I want to share it. And I wish other YouTubers would share maybe some of my stuff, but it doesn't happen. It's always about the person. But I like sharing other people's videos on these channels. If I think is in line with what I'm talking about, I just don't need my opinion out there. I feel like just the old man who's dapping and banging the drums. And I say, we have a big issue here. Trucking is really good. I love trucking. I love being on the road. I love listening to my books on tapes going down. I couldn't wait to get into that truck. I did over the road. Most of over the road was team driving, two of us driving, and whatever. That was two of us. And then I did over the road with another company. But when they start trying to get me to break the rules and falsify logs and everything else, and I said, no, I'm going back local, which I did. But that's how you get a hold of me. And most of the time, if you put a question on any of those channels, 95% of the time, or sometimes I might miss it, I will answer the question. My time is, I spoke earlier, I'll end what I have to say, but I spoke earlier, I am a full-time caregiver. So my time, I don't want no one to feel sorry for me, because these are the best times of my life right now, to spend time with my wife, who put up with me being away from home, long hours, even when I work local, long hours, mostly was night driving, the night shift, and whatever. I'm a full-time caregiver. So my wife has, which a lot of people have when you start forgetting, it's a dementia. It's whatever. When we get older, she's a little older than me. And then maybe I'm getting it too. That's why sometimes I'm afraid to go and do a podcast. But it happens. But I am so honored to have this time to work with her, the trucker's wife. The trucker's wife. Truckers have to remember, you have a wife and you got a family out there. Yep. And I have no problem right now doing what I'm doing. And thank goodness for YouTube that I can educate myself on how to care for her. But right now, she's doing pretty good. And mainly because I'm listening to some other YouTube channels, how to do it. I usually 3 channels. But I know my time is going to run short. Maybe next year, whatever, that maybe I'm not going to be doing a podcast or doing anything on my YouTube channel, adding more videos on, because that time I know is coming. And also, I'm looking at my age. Anything can happen. I'll be like I said, be 75 years old in a few weeks. I still can probably run. I can still do everything I did at 65 or in my 50s. I still can do it. And they'll say, Steve, get off the roof of the house. You're too old to be doing that stuff. But I've been thankful and fortunate that I took care of myself, eat right, and I practiced the Smith system of driving, and I did what I had to do to be safe and not to have an accident on the road. So that's it. That's how you get a hold of me.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for you taking the time and sharing it with us. I think I found you just because you made a comment on one of my stuff, one of my videos, and
Oh, I did. I did that.
and so
Okay.
and I love the fact, and we're trying to. I'm like you. I don't have sponsors on my podcast. I don't accept money. I just try to put information out there to the public so people can
Right.
learn and be educated. So God bless. Hopefully, prayers for you and your wife, and thank you for taking the time to spend with us. This is David Craig, and you've been listening to After the Crash. If you'd like more information about me or my law firm, please go to our website, ckflaw.com. Or if you'd like to talk to me, you can call 1-800-ASK-DAVID. If you would like a guide on what to do after a truck wreck, then pick up my book, Semi-Truck Wreck, a guide for victims and their families, which is available on Amazon, or you can download it for free on our website, ckflaw.com.